Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you guys how to cable for the darkest light build. Now that we've already gone through the hardware side, if you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and put it on top of the screen here. So even though it is hardware and there will be the video card as well, we're going to go ahead and install the power supply now. What we're going to do on the Fractal Design Define R6 case is on the back, we're going to go ahead and remove the power supply frame right over here. So these are thumb screws, so they come off relatively easily. And now we're going to go ahead and grab the power supply. This is the Be Quiet Straight Power 11 1000 watt, which is a fully modular power supply, but I've already gone ahead and plugged in all the cables that I would use. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just grab all the cables like this and just slide them into here. And then just slide the power supply in. Now, there are rubber feet in here, rubber pads that help keep the noise of the power supply down. So that might make it difficult sometimes to slide it in. So you're just gonna go ahead, angle it up a little bit, so like this, so that it faces up a little bit. And then that way you'll kind of go over those little rubber pads. Okay, so it's in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and grab that frame again. If you notice, there's a little screw hole here right in the frame. That's going to match up with this screw hole here, or it might be down here. Now, I've put the fan facing down so that it sucks in cooler air, and especially because this power supply, or this case should I say, has a filter on the bottom that blocks any dust from getting into the power supply. The other reason to always keep the fan down, let's say if you didn't have the shroud, you had the power supply exposed, if a screw ever fell in or liquid ever fell in here and you have the power supply on the top or the fan on the top, you're done, it's gone. So a few reasons there. Okay, so then now what we're going to do, again, we matched up that little screw hole right over here, and now we're going to go ahead and screw in the frame into the case itself. Okay, and just match it up over here. Now we're going to need the hex head screws for right over here to screw the power supply into the frame itself. Now, because we pushed the power supply in and there's a frame there, it's kind of hard, and then the shroud, it's kind of hard to get the power supply out there properly. So we need to turn it around this way, then push the power supply outwards. And then as we're pushing it out, we need to align the screw holes here. It's one of the downfalls of the shroud. Okay, so now that that's lined up, go ahead, just screw in one. And that's gonna go ahead and pull the power supply from the inside. And now we can go ahead and screw in the rest. And you're gonna see this is gonna pull in a little bit. Yep. All right, now that was simple, right? So that was thankfully the easy part. All right, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to figure out where we're going to put in the 24 pin, since it is right over here. And this motherboard has two 8-pin connections right over here. Now you don't need to plug in both if you don't have two. Thankfully, this Be Quiet Straight Power 11 1000 watt does bring two. Mind you, it is modular. You can choose one or you could choose both. I chose both for this one, even though I don't truly need it. It's more for overclocking purposes, but it's there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it around. Okay, now we can see the back side of this case. Okay, and this big one right over here is the 24 pin. So we're going to go ahead and first off, let's go ahead and grab all those cables and just bring them out here. since we are going to need them all. Now, you can, because I moved this frame back out, it was back in, but I moved it back out. That way I had more access to the 24 pin and the 8 pin since it is angled. Because this is pushed out, you have full access to your power supply in here, but because the shroud is right there, it kind of makes it difficult, which is why I left all those cables plugged in. And then pulling them out allows us to line them up nicely and neat when we put them back in. That way it makes cable management that much easier. Okay, now that they're all out, I'm just gonna go ahead and separate the cables. That way they're not all bundled together. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and plug in that 24 pin. That's gonna go right here. All right, so now we have the 24 pin plugged in. So it's sticking out a little tiny bit over here. Sorry, the angle that I'm building it so that you guys can see it just makes it a little difficult. There we go. Perfectly plugged in, and that little clip locked in place. So now, again, you don't need to have both of these 8-pin EPS plugs connected. These provide power to the CPU, but I'm gonna connect them both. Okay, so then you can see right here, it says P8. It doesn't say VGA or PCIe because they look similar to the 8-pin PCIe, but they're not the same. So we'll just go ahead, plug that in right in here. And the secondary cable this power supply brings for that 8-pin connection is a 4x4, so it splits, but you're just going to want to put it together. And connect it right there. All right, so we're good there. So now we're going to go ahead and connect the USB 3.0 header. All right, easy enough. The great thing about this motherboard is usually on M.2 slots, when you plug one in, you lose the ability for one of these SATA ports. Connecting the top one, you lose the ability to use the U.2 port, which not many drives utilize. And then connecting the bottom M.2 slot, you lose the PE3, you lose your PCIe by 4 slot over here. Okay, but you can always use a by 4 or a by 1 in one of these by 16s. So now all we have to connect is the USB 2 headers, the audio header. If you wanted to, if you're going to go ahead and maybe use Tri-SLI, you're going to want to go ahead and connect a by 6 PCIe connection right over here. That provides additional power to the PCIe slots, but I don't have 3, I only have 1, the EVGA GeForce RTX 2080 XE Ultra, which we're gonna go ahead and install in 1 second. But again, it's easier to install the video card after you've connected all of the cables. So I'm just going to go ahead, turn this around. Okay, here are the front panel headers, HD audio and USB 3. Since HD audio is all the way over here, we're going to go ahead and slide that under all of the cables. And then now I'm going to fish it through the hole over here in the case. Okay, and you can see that it popped up right over here. Now I'm just going to go ahead and connect it right up here. So make sure this little blank piece right over here, see that right there? make sure that lines up with the blank notch right over here on the front panel audio header. All right, that's it, and it's connected. So now we're gonna go ahead and pop in the USB 2.0 header. Just gonna slide that in again under all of the other power cables, and then slide that through the grommet down here. Okay, and then we can see it pops up right over here. Now, EVGA did a great thing previously on other EVGA boards even. Those USB 2.0 headers and any other headers they had there at a 90-degree angle, they were perfectly flat on the board. On this board, they've raised it a little tiny bit, maybe to the thickness of two credit cards. So now I can actually use this grommet correctly. So again, I'm just gonna go ahead and plug this in real quick. Again, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because of the camera. Just makes it hard to get in there. All right, so at this point, now that we have it lined up, just push it in. And there you go. So you've plugged in the USB 2.0 header. EVGA did a great job on this one. Usually I would have to Dremel the case out, but I don't have to in this case. So now we're gonna go ahead and connect right over here the front panel header buttons, like the reset, power button, and the activity light. So just turn it around. All right, so then here we have those cables. So I'm just gonna go ahead again under all these other cables and slide it through that grommet. Okay, so might be a little confusing, where to plug everything into. So I'm going to include a screenshot here of where exactly all of those cables need to go connected. All right, so with that, you can see right down there, they are all connected, as well as the USB 2 and the front panel audio header. So let's go ahead and zoom out. All right, so now at this point, we're gonna go ahead and install two SSD drives. So they're going to go on the back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew this guy. Take the tray out. Then also unscrew this one. So again, we're going to install the WD Blue 500 gig and the Samsung Evo 850 500 gig as well over here. All right, so now we just grab the drive, line up the holes here on the tray, and just screw them in. Now with that screwed in, we're just gonna slide it into place over here. And then screw this right in here, locking the drive in place. All right, one drive down. Next drive, same process. All right, pretty simple. So now we're gonna grab the outermost SATA cable, SATA power cable, I should say. Slide it in under the two 8-pin PCIEs that or two 8-pin EPS connections that I've used. That way it's a little bit nicer and neat. I'm going to use the innermost ones out here. That way I can connect this guy in a minute, and I'll tell you what that's for. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and connect the SATA cables to these guys. I will slide these under all the other cables. Then we'll turn her around. Okay, so now we grab the SATA cables and we can plug them in anywhere we want to. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug them in to the bottom two. Since the cables are a bit short, plug them right in there, and there we go. All right, so now at this point, we're just going to go ahead and pop in the video card. So the video card, we'll just slide it right in here. And just slide it into place, and there it's good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in a little bit, just in case for those of you that don't know how to install a video card. I'll show you guys how to do that now. Okay, so again, we'll grab the video card and you'll notice the little PCIe slot is going to match up with this PCIe slot. So then we'll just slide it into place, and you'll notice the slots are now joining right there. And so then you just push in the card. All right, and it's that simple. So now all we need to do is plug in the PCIe connections. So now we'll come around the back. All right, here's one, and here's two PCIe powers. So now I'm just going to go ahead and lift them above the other cables. Slide them around the back here so that we have access to them. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead, grab one. Now, I'm not cabling it to look real pretty right now. I'm doing the basics, and then afterwards, I'm gonna go ahead and cable it offline and then come back to it so that you guys can see how it looks like completed. Okay, so you'll notice there's a 6-pin right here, then there's an 8-pin. So the first one, I'm just gonna go ahead, join them, and I'm gonna connect the 8-pin. Actually, let me go ahead and screw these in first. At least one of them, so that the card doesn't come out of place. So just screwing that in. You notice, oh, I'm using my right hand just to make the card line up nicely with all of these holes here and here, and then that one as well. Okay, so now we'll go back to that PCIe cable. And just pop it in right there. And now let's grab that other cable. Now this one only needs to be a 6-pin, so we'll go ahead and put this one away for now. And that's it, it's connected. Now, one other thing on this case is this fan controller here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, the rear fan back here, we're just going to connect that one over here. And then we're going to need to connect this one to a fan header, since this is the PWM fan header, which makes these three PWM fans as well. So they're controlled by the bias itself. When it needs the fans to rev up, it'll rev them up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, feed it through this grommet here and connect it to one of these two fan headers here. Okay, just feeding it through right here. Okay, you'll see it came out through right there. And we'll just grab it. And again, I'm making this very difficult for myself, but I'm making it so that I can show you guys how to do it correctly. Okay, so now that that fan header is connected and this fan header is connected, we're going to go ahead and plug this guy in as well. This provides power to the entire unit. And then we'll just use one of these guys down here that we had for the strand for the heart for the SSDs. Okay, so that guy's connected now. Now this guy has power to feed these two front fans, which I already had connected, and this rear fan. And then over here, this controls the fan speed. So as it is right now, the computer is fully built. All we need to do is plug in the power supply down here for power, and then video right here. Don't use this display port unless you want to use onboard video, or you want to use onboard video along with your video card. But if you have a video card, use it. So connect video here and just turn her on and use it. And we are going to go through a video on flashing the BIOS, then other videos on installing the OS and everything. So that's it for right now. I'll be right back to show you the finished work. All right guys, so here is the final build for the darkest light. A few things that bother me about this build. A, Viper is upside down. That irks me, it kills me, but it is what it is. I can't really change that. It kills me that the fan has to be placed this way, but because the fan would hit the memory, or should I say the heatsink is going to run into the memory, I had no choice. The only good thing is it is going to be sucking warm air out of the video card through here, and then going to be sucking through here. Some of it is going to be cycling out this way, but it'll work its way out, especially with the fans in the front blowing air through here. You can see how that looks. It looks great. No cables around here. Now coming around the back, okay, it is not as good as it can get, but she does look very nice. Again, this is going to be the back of the system, so it doesn't matter a whole lot, but you know, you can see down here I had to push in some of the cables, but again, it is the back of the system. You're not going to be looking here. When you are looking at it, you're going to be looking right over here. It is the darkest light build, which means there's not going to be a whole lot of light in this system. Two reasons I named it the darkest build. A, the darkest light build. A, because of the motherboard, the Z390 dark motherboard. And then also because there's not going to be a lot of light. There's only going to be light coming from the EVGA GeForce RTX symbol here that I can actually turn off. And then from the RAM as well. Though there will be some up here as well for the diagnostic lights, and then wherever the LED light is for the board, if there is one. I don't think there is on this particular board. The Viper RAM, I believe I can turn off, but I'm reviewing that as well, so I don't know just yet. I obviously haven't turned her on yet, so I'll find out soon enough. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. I am going to be listing everything I have in the system in the description below. Now, one thing I want to show you guys about this is, and it speaks tons to the motherboard. When I received it, I didn't notice it until 2 days later that I realized, oh man, this might hit. So I had the board on my table and I tried to put this the correct way, but that's when I found out that it was going to hit the RAM. Okay, so then I looked in the CPU socket and I noticed something. Check it out. You see those two pins? They're completely bent backwards. They're bent over the other pins. Now, I've bent many pins back to the way they should be on a CPU socket and made it work perfectly fine. But these being so far back, on any other board that has metal or whatever material they use for those pins, flipping something over that far back, it's gonna snap. For a fact. I've had it happen to me once before, and I know it will happen. Now on this board, since it uses 150% gold for those pins, gold is more pliable. You can move it a lot more than metal. Metal, at a certain point, is gonna snap. Now gold, you know, you might have to wiggle it around a little bit, then it'll snap. But that, I just went, and I made it look like this. Not perfect, but you know, during the whole time I was communicating with EVGA on this, and they're like, you know what, go ahead and try it. The most that'll happen is it'll break and we'll send you another board. And in my unboxing video, I didn't notice it till Chris Kelly on the This Bytes for You Facebook site. He told me in the unboxing, in another video, that no, it looks fine. So then I went back and I looked at it, and at 12:08 you can see when I took the cap off of the pins of the socket, you notice that those pins are bent. And then I'm like, oh my God, you know, just in case they thought that I bent them, they were like that out of the box, which I have let them know they are going to go back and find out potentially what may have happened. But regardless of that, that speaks loads to the quality of this board. And as I've always worked with EVGA, their quality on all their components. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You know, props to EVGA on that. That's awesome. The board looks beautiful. I can only imagine, as for right now, since I haven't used it yet, what I'm going to be able to do to it and with it. But you guys will definitely find out here. So stay tuned, and you're going to see a lot more from me on this and everything in the system. Yeah. See you guys.
Disclaimer, this product was provided to the author to do a review. All opinions are 100% authors and authors alone. For more information, visit bit.ly/dbdisclose. To have your product or brand showcased on Dragon Blogger, visit bit.ly/reviewmyproduct. Thank you for watching.